I always say that teachers have the potential to change lives, right?
I'm sure you've had your share of challenges as well as a woman in technology. So, if you could highlight some of those, and how has this impacted your leadership style?
So what's interesting about that is, unfortunately there are certain biases in society, and I think that people tend to see specific demographic as having the capacity to lead and teach when it comes to really advanced technologies like AI. Do female-led companies in the tech space have more challenges? Absolutely, that's true. But I think that what will differentiate us and help us meet the mission that we have, which is to impact literally 10, 15, 20 million students in the world, is if we persevere through that and get people to be on our side and on our mission, regardless of what we look like or what we wear or whatever it is.
Describe your journey in 3 words. What would that be?
An adventure, inspiring, empowering.
Hi, you're watching The Mainstream. We are back with another episode of our weekly lives, and I'm Simran Shiwalkar, your host for this episode. Today, we are joined by a true Wonder Woman in tech and a visionary, Miss Tanya Jajal. Tanya, thank you once again for joining us and being a part of this series.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Absolutely. And well, Tanya needs no introduction. Her remarkable contribution is well known. I will still take this opportunity to share a few things about Tanya. She's a true Wonder Woman at the forefront of technology, education, and entrepreneurship. Tanya is the founder and CEO of Aiden, a groundbreaking startup that is reimagining how and what students in the age of AI by disrupting current educational models at scale with the help of AI. Beyond her professional milestones, Tanya is an adventurer at heart, pushing her limits through trail running, surfing, and exploring philosophy and yoga. Today, we are more than thrilled to know more about her journey, listen to her insights, and also her bold vision for the future. So, without any further ado, let's begin. Tanya, just like we said, a true Wonder Woman in technology and reshaping the future of AI. You've had a dynamic experience and a transformative journey. Can you tell us a bit about this experience and your journey?
Absolutely. So, as you know, a lot of the work that I do is specifically focused on education and preparing the youth for a radically changing world, right? And my journey began as a student myself. So, when I was a student in the United States, a college student, I was exposed to the work of Ray Kurzweil, who's the former director of engineering at Google, and he's one of the best known predictors of future technology. And at the time, I had decided I was on the path to becoming a lawyer, but I had decided to actually drop that because I thought that AI, specifically and exponential tech, would dramatically change the landscape of work. So the journey into tech began then. I pivoted as a college student, decided to build a network and a bit of thought leadership and so on around specifically the societal impact of tech on society. And now I spent 6 years at VMware, getting my hands dirty, seeing firsthand what's happening in the technology industry, leading teams, trying to understand exactly where the advancement is and whether it really is that impactful. And today I lead Aiden to create experiences for young people so that education is more fit for purpose for this radically changing world.
Fantastic. And Tanya, like you just said, this has also led you to becoming the founder of Aiden. Can you tell us a bit about Aiden, the inspiration behind founding Aiden and how the overall idea and the mission integrated?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I always say that teachers have the potential to change lives, right? And we're living in this world where students have access, young people specifically have access to so much information that knowledge is being commoditized. And so everyone knows that there's this urgency around specifically around for young people to think about how they're going to use tech, how they're going to build responsible tech, and how they're going to co-create so that they are entering a workforce that they're actually prepared for, right? So to the original statement that I said, teachers change lives, and my life was changed by a teacher who, again, exposed me to these ideas when I was very, very young, when I was 15. But I believe that I was fortunate enough and blessed enough to be exposed to that experience and have a teacher like that in my life, right? So the idea behind Aiden is the more we started to create educational experiences and work with schools, we realized, what if every student had access to that kind of learning? What if every teacher was AI empowered, right? So that they could create learning experiences with the student at the center of it? And what if education models were built with that in mind, so that students are not just entering this workforce where they feel completely lost and disengaged in the future landscape, right? And ultimately, what that leads to is the more we worked with companies, we saw that people are disengaged at work. So we're creating this society that we no longer have to live in, which was based on a factory kind of model of industrial era model of working, but that's no longer the case, right? So it's the whole ethos behind it is how do you create a more meaningful landscape of work, starting with the youth, but then it expands into companies as well, and getting them to automate so that work is more meaningful, is purposeful, is exciting. That's how it came about. Yeah.
Thank you once again, Tanya, for being so elaborative and comprehensive about that and sharing this journey with us today. I have another question for you today. When we talk about AI, we are talking about opportunities. We are talking about the real world opportunities when it comes to education and the future of workforce as well. What is your view when it comes to the ethical side, or the other side of AI or technology for that matter? How do you think it is impacting the youth, the education sector for that matter, as well as the workforce?
Yeah, this is probably the most, I would say, it's the question that's top of mind for any company that's looking to use AI or any school that's looking to adopt it for students, right? AI, like a lot of other technologies in the past, like the steam engine or the internet, is often referred to as a general purpose technology. So ironically, that stands for GPT, but it has nothing to do with ChatGPT. And the thing with general purpose technology is that they tend to have a generational effect on society, and they tend to get integrated in phases, right? So now we're seeing that that's what's happening with AI. It's existed since 1956, and it's slowly getting integrated and what we say democratized, so that more and more people have access to it. And as a result, it's transformative. It's having an impact on industries in ways that we might not even be able to see sitting in a school as a teacher, or in one company in the UAE as a director of the company, for example, right? So the change is happening in phases, and it's happening dramatically. So what that means is that there will inevitably be societal impacts. We need to consider the risks of that change on things like job disruption. We need to consider the ethics, meaning how safe it is to use that technology. And unfortunately, lawyers and legal bodies and governments also need to keep up with this rapid pace of change. So that the gap is increasingly growing. So when we're talking about the ethics and so on, we first need to look at and honestly evaluate how the technology is developing, and then go to each of those government bodies or those lawyers or those societal institutions and tell them how to deal with this. And that's where I think that you need people who are kind of bridging, or companies that are bridging the connection between the two, so that it's not in silos, right? So that governments and schools and institutions are not completely unaware of what the technology can do. I also think it's really important to not get too scared, because I think there's a lot of fear around these technologies, but they will inevitably become a part of our lives. And younger people become digital nomads. They will grow with the technology, and eventually the human race will also evolve. So I think it's important to keep that in mind, to not get too fearful about what might happen with AI. Yeah.
Absolutely. And taking cues from that, Tanya, in your book, Thinking Machines, AI and the Explosion, you deep dive into, the transformative impact of this emerging technology. In your view, how you think this technology, AI for that matter, can empower creativity or even, purpose when it comes to individual as well as for organizations as well?
Yeah. So there's a statistic that I came across, I would say in 2018, and it's actually a survey that's done by this company called Gallup. So Gallup runs these polls, and they survey organizations, not just in the United States, but globally as well. And they do a survey on the state of work, right? So it's on employee engagement. And continuously every year, that survey says that 80 to 90% of people are either partially or completely disengaged at work, right? So if you're someone who thinks purely, economically, financially, and you're thinking about the productivity that's lost if people are going to work and barely doing anything, then you should already know that something needs to be done about it, right? But on the other hand, if you're someone who cares more about, you care more about humanity, you care more about people reaching their full purpose, you're more drawn to the social aspect of what work means for the individual, whether they're young or in an organization, then you should see that this is the most unique opportunity for us to take that statistic, that 88%, and turn it on its head, right? Meaning that we can finally have organizations where you don't have to do a lot of the mundane, routine stuff, and you can elevate each person to do exactly what they're meant to do. And if there are people who are really good at administrative, routine, mundane things, then let them do that. Let them work with the systems to do it at scale, in a faster way, in a way that's efficient, rather than in a way that's prone to mistakes, error, and also to boredom, right, for the individual. So really, it's this amazing and unique opportunity, but it's only going to be an opportunity if we approach it from a place of conscientiousness and really take like a responsible and educated approach to it. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Tanya, now, coming back to your journey, you've been in the tech space for far too long. You're a tech leader. For someone who's at the forefront of technology and who's a leader in the tech space and AI, also been associated with organizations like VMware and then founding your own organizations like Aiden. I'm sure you've had your share of challenges as well as a woman in technology. So if you could highlight some of those, and how has this impacted your leadership style?
Yeah, absolutely. I think so. What's interesting about Aiden actually is that we're a very female strong team. The core team is very female strong, right? So it's not just myself, but actually I ended up having some people join me from VMware and from other organizations that other friends and people that I've been associated with for a number of years. And we do have mostly women in the team, except for the co-founder who's also a male. However, what's interesting about that is, unfortunately, there are certain biases in society, and I think that people tend to see specific demographic as having the capacity to lead and teach when it comes to really advanced technologies like AI, right? But what I think fundamentally, what we've learned throughout the years and what I keep telling and motivating my team to realize is that learning and sharing ideas, especially now with AI, is not only about the technical proficiency and the depth with which one knows the subject, right? It's not about being a subject matter expert. It's about taking subject matter expertise and making it accessible to everyone, right? Especially because the technology is affecting everyone in such a variety of ways. So fundamentally, I think if you keep that mission in mind, and if we do a little exercise where we remind ourselves of why are we doing this? What is the big picture? Then you're able to kind of ignore or move past when things are not necessarily going your way, because we will inevitably face challenges. And the other thing I remind them of is to not fall into this victim mindset, because it's very important to remember that everyone has their own set of challenges. Do female-led companies in the tech space have more challenges? Absolutely, that's true. But I think that what will differentiate us and help us meet the mission that we have, which is to impact literally 10, 15, 20 million students in the world, is if we persevere through that and get people to be on our side and on our mission, regardless of what we look like or what we wear or whatever it is. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that goes beyond technology. I think it applies for all the sectors for women who are at, the leadership level. So thank you once again, Tanya. And lastly, I want to understand from you, being at the, having that upper hand in emerging technologies like AI, any relevant skills that you think is necessary in today's time, especially now that we are so interconnected, or any mindsets that individuals need to have, cultivated to get established in the tech space?
Yeah, absolutely. One is you need to be very curious about AI or AI enabled, right? I have a rule in the team where I will not hire someone if they're not using AI or curious about using it. Because if they don't, then they're going to fall behind compared to the level and stage at which the rest of the team is operating, right? So that is extremely important. And what that means fundamentally, the skill that comes down to are two things: adaptability and agility. And these two skills are skills that there's an education expert. His name is Tony Wagner. He wrote this. He wrote a book called Creating Innovators, but he also highlighted the 7 critical survival skills of the future. And he wrote that of those skills, adaptability, agility, leading by influence, analytical thinking, critical thinking are extremely important. And they're becoming even more important because they're very difficult to sort of automate, right? So you need to see what will differentiate yourself from someone else. And ultimately, what will differentiate you is if you're able to use the tool, co-create with the tool, but also if you're able to stand out and have a unique aspects that are uniquely you, and only you as the individual know what you're uniquely good at, right? It's not about mimicking someone else, but rather about digging deep, introspecting, and seeing what am I good at that I can offer to the world. So stop thinking about it in terms of what can the world do for me, and think about it in terms of what can I do for the world.
Absolutely. And Tanya, once again, thank you so much for being a part of the series and sharing your critical insights. While we wrap up, I still have a couple of rapid fire questions for you if you're ready.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
Great, let's go ahead.
Yeah.
If AI could take over one core for you forever, what would that be?
Probably scheduling meetings for me without me having to intervene in it at all. So yeah.
I think I get that.
Yeah.
And what's one innovation you wish you had invented?
Oh, wow, that's a great one. What's one innovation? Probably really intelligent large language models. So neural symbolic LLMs with reasoning in them. Yeah.
Fantastic. What's a skill that you think everyone should learn in today's day and age?
Entrepreneurship, regardless of where you work or what you do. Yeah.
Absolutely. What's your mantra to maintain the balance for professional and personal life?
Mine personally is to run.
I think we all can take some inspiration from there. And lastly, if you had to describe your journey in 3 words, what would that be?
An adventure, inspiring, empowering. Yeah.
Great, great. Thank you once again for being so insightful and incredibly inspirational as well. While we conclude this session, I definitely look forward to connecting back with you again.
Likewise. Thank you so much for having me, Simran.